Hello, hello. Thank you again for joining Workspace Spark. We are so excited to bring you Victoria Hudson. She is the founder of Polish, which I absolutely adore and love. I grew up learning about etiquette, but the world is so casual now. Our cultures are so casual that I think business etiquette gets lost. And I've seen people come to interviews crazy, showing up on virtual in pajamas, and I get it, but we wanted to bring an expert on to talk all things business etiquette. So thank you so much for joining us, Victoria. If you'll please just tell us a little about yourself.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I am super passionate about etiquette. I love being in spaces and having opportunities where I can share with others the beauty of etiquette because it can be seen as stuffy sometimes. Just to be able to talk about it in a casual form and how it can help us be our best selves is super important to me. As you said, I'm Victoria Hudson. I am an educator. And I feel so blessed to have two things that I'm very passionate about, education and etiquette. So I do that as my 9 to 5, but my love and my passion has always been etiquette. And when I started Polished in 2015, it has always been so near and dear to my heart to be able to open up a space to help. Initially, it was to help young girls be them best selves. However, as I started in the platform of etiquette with young girls, I realized it was a need for uh, males and college students and adults and families. And so I began to get requests from all parties. And it has taken something that I've loved with a small group, and I've just been able to expand that. That started off as just, it was going to be where I had a focus and an emphasis on dining etiquette, but it has since grown from interview etiquette to business etiquette to just how to be when you're in certain places. I have over 19 years of experience as an educator, and I believe my experience as an educator, I've used that to help me with being an etiquette consultant. I am trained and certified as a consultant. And so I've had to make some pivots myself in how to do this post pandemic to make this work. But I am so thankful for virtual opportunities like this platform and others where I'm still able to kind of coach and facilitate trainings with etiquette.
Awesome. I mean, we've all had to pivot and adjust.
Yes.
I would even assume that I've been working from home for a long time, for years before working from home was cool, but had a lot of colleagues that for the first time was working from home and not knowing business etiquette, right? Like there is an office etiquette that you can kind of quickly pick up, but it's hard to pick up a company's culture virtually and understanding what the proper channels and how do you get things done. So definitely think that your services are definitely needed, and so glad that you're including adults because we need etiquette training as well. So that leads me to my question.
Okay.
What is business etiquette? I mean, we hear about etiquette and people typically think about the dining table. What is business etiquette and why is it important to professionals?
Well, that's a super great question. And it has changed over the years, right? Because companies have become more relaxed and more instead of like how to be like we want you to be, they're trying to meet the needs of the average professional today. So the working mom, the dads who are juggling working but also coaching their son's basketball team. And so every business has its own etiquette and culture. I simply think about it as it's how to be in the environment that you're in. And
Mm.
it changes from company to company, to workspace to workspace. I have myself have had to learn to adapt as I changed as an educator. I changed schools. And then I went from being at a brick and mortar school to a virtual school, which was very different. Then I went to consulting work, so it's very different. And so even though there is a certain decorum that we want to live by personally, every company knows how to be. So it's respecting that environment and what that looks like. So just I would consider it just as I work in this environment, how should I be? How should I show up? That makes sense. And I always say, if you don't know, look at your supervisor, look at the top executives there,
Mm.
those individuals to kind of guide you and govern you. There are at times they still may not rise to your expectation, but they're kind of setting the tone as far as what they may think is right. And then you can add your own, still be who you are, no matter what. Don't let anyone change that. But it's how am I going to show up to this environment? Because first impressions are lasting. And so it only takes 7 seconds to make a first impression. And after making that first impression, it takes 26 encounters with the same individual to change their perception of you. So if that first impression in 7 seconds is negative, they had to have 26 encounters to change how they initially perceived you. So
That's
how
so crazy.
yes, right, isn't it? 7 seconds for, and most of that really is, our appearance and what we give off, and then the first few words that we speak. That's it for 7 seconds. So, whether you're a smiler or whether you're closed off, whether you fold your hands often, like I do sometimes out of habit, whether you hold, whether you play with your hair, whether you're always trying to get something out of your eye, all of those things, that body language says a lot about you. So
Wow.
it is how you show up.
7 seconds.
Yes.
26. That is so many encounters.
A lot.
And makes me think you may not even have the opportunity to have 26 encounters. So you better make them count.
Yep. Yes. Yes. And because of that, I think we all have to be ourselves. And that's the best way we can show up, is showing up as who you are. But I think it's also learning how to be self-aware and ask people who are close to you. When you first met me, what did you think about me? Ask your friends, ask your family. When I walk in a room, what energy or vibe do I give off? And a lot of times that's tough, hearing the answers or the responses, but in a business and a professional setting, we don't always share that. So get your loved ones, your family, your friends, those who are with you, ask them. I like to ask people who I've met later in life who weren't maybe childhood friends, like, how do I show up when I walk in a room? Like, what do you gauge from me so I can maybe adjust if that's not how I want to show up? But if I'm okay with showing up like that, then I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll continue to operate in that space.
Ooh, I'm scared. Maybe I'll challenge myself to ask a few people.
Yes, yes.
So in a virtual world, do you think business etiquette is still needed? Is it necessary?
I think so. I really think so. And again, it changes from space to space. And to share my own story, not too long ago, I did some work for a virtual school. And that environment was very big on emojis, right? So I came from a brick and mortar environment in education where we didn't do that. That was not necessarily professional. But this environment, because they were virtual, it was, we don't have the opportunity to see how this email, this instant chat lands. And so there's a big expectation on emojis and GIFs. There's a big expectation on lots of exclamation points, where you often hear, right, don't do that. That's not professional. So I had to quickly learn and adjust to being an emoji lover. I wasn't one. But now I have learned how to find the best GIFs and understand. And I think when I first saw it, nobody told me that, but I had to go to some peers and say, all right, tell me about the culture and the etiquette of communicating in this environment. Like, how do I win? Because I was coming in and I was leading a department. I wanted to win. I wanted to, and it was, that's what we do. We can't connect. We can't bring each other breakfast. So we share funny videos. You share something funny on TikTok. So that was what they do to connect. And that was important because in order to build a relationship with this team, I needed to come in and understand that environment. That was their etiquette. It was how to be. I tell individuals all the time, when we go to our favorite sports event, there's etiquette there. Like, your team wins, you stand up, you yell, you scream. When we're at a 5-star dining experience, there's etiquette there. Google has an etiquette. Starbucks has an etiquette. Schools I work in have an etiquette. And you have to come in, be very observant, really quick, and adjust to the etiquette in that environment so you could be successful there while still being yourself. while still being yourself, which can still challenging at times. So
Yeah, it's interesting. I just started at a new employer, and and like you said, all spaces aren't the same. I've been in the virtual world for years, and they were not emoji driven. They were not jokes sharing driven. They were definitely cameras on culture. No one said it, but definitely a camera on culture. The
mhm.
new environment that I'm in, they are sending the dancing banana emoji. They are sending GIFs. They're sharing family, personal things in a certain Slack channel. And I'm like, wow, we didn't do that. But for them, that's the way they connect. And so I'm in the stages of learning the culture and being observant and identifying how I want to show up. Yes, I may not be all the way in the emojis, but if that's how we show connection, I do need to adopt that. So great, great, great analogy there. Um,
Yeah.
let's talk dress code.
Okay.
So
Okay.
both in virtual and even in person. Now things are going back up and getting in person. I have seen people come to interviews that to me didn't look as professional. So let's talk dress code. What do you think about dress codes in the workplace, especially now that cultures are a little bit more relaxed?
Who I can be very traditional when it comes to dress code, right? I can. I think it's important that you understand a professional attire, and I believe there is attire for every environment. And I understand everyone does not believe that, and I believe every organization has their own culture for that. And I believe we have 7 seconds to come across as our best self. And it's not that you're trying to impress anyone, but we live in a society that's judgmental, that will judge you. And there's so many things as depending on your gender, your race, your background, your accent, that you're already perceived as judgment. And so I do feel like your attire, it can look different, but it should be where you are covered up, where you're not revealing too much, where your clothes are not too fitted. It should be where individuals are not distracted by your attire, so they can see what you are bringing to the table. And sometimes, whether it's a lot of labels, that could be distracting. Whether it's tight fitting clothing, that can be distracting. Whether you are wrinkled. And so there have been times where I've been interviewing and the attire is so distracting. I have to keep reshifting myself to focus to really hear what the candidate is saying. And so I think that's why it's important to really, be who you are. Everyone is not a suit wearer. You might like dresses better. Wear your dress. Show up as your dress. But being mindful of, how do I show up where I still look professional? I have on a nice fitting outfit or suit for men or pants, but so I can show up and present my best self, and they can hear who I am and not be distracted by what I have on.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean somebody still may not compliment you. That's fine, and compliment shoes and outfits or whatever that might be, but just still making sure it's not distracting to them. So I do feel like it's still so critically important. I think the best advice I ever received, as I said, I'm an educator. My first school I worked in, my principal pulled me to the side and he said, I told all of my new teachers, dress for the job you want, not for the job you have.
I love that.
That has stuck with me. And I live by that motto this day of like, no matter what, I show up. When at the consulting company I worked for, we would go into a lot of schools on Friday. Most schools, teachers are allowed to wear jeans on Friday, as they should, right? But my company pushed us and said, Fridays, teachers are a little bit more relaxed. Kids are more relaxed. People are ready for the weekend. That's the day you really dress up. Let them.
Really?
So they didn't make us, but they said
No.
on a Friday, that's when you go to the school. They told them, if you want to wear your suits, wear your suit and tie. Ladies, dress up a little bit more than you did the other week because this is still a work day. We're still here to handle business. And because sometimes attire gives off everything. And when I put on different things, if I put on a gown for an after six event, I feel differently than my t-shirt and jeans. That's me personally. Some people are different, but it does change our mindset and sometimes how we're able to approach the work we're going to do.
Oh, such a great, great perspective. When I wear a suit, I do feel powerful. I feel leadership and in charge. Totally, totally see that.
Mhm.
So a lot of our subscribers are mid-level managers, leaders. As advice to a new leader who may be listening, how do you address a direct report that is not following etiquette protocols?
I think number one, we have to have a handbook, right? Every organization, you need a handbook of what is the expectation. And you need to ensure that you go over that handbook, those dress code expectations with all new hires. If that has been done, my suggestion would be, I'm not a fan of those blanket emails where it's two people who are out of compliance out of 200. Like, let's just go address those two individuals, because then it has everyone looking like, I think I'm right, but maybe I'm not. For me, so my suggestion would be to have an informal, I like to call them check-ins, with the individuals who may be out of compliance. And you do have to be careful because we live in a society where, depending on how they're out of dress code, if it's too revealing, are they showing, are they showing too much of a body part? Is there cleavage? Is there a midriff that's showing? You want to be mindful of how you handle that. I would definitely go to an HR department for support with that. If it is going to be where the supervisor can handle it, I would call them in. Maybe have someone, a representative with you in the conversation, whether it's Zoom or in person, and just say, I just want to remind you of our dress code expectation. These are the expectations that we ask all of our employees to meet. We have made notices of how you are out of compliance. And if there is an example, as an employee, they might say, well, what day? Tell me when. Be sure to have maybe where they were not in compliance. I've had individuals say to me, well, I'm a new teacher. I don't have the funds to go buy the clothes that you're asking me to have. And so I've been able to provide, suggestions of where to get professional clothing from, whether, and not to insult anyone, but I love a nice thrift store, so whether it's a secondhand store, it's a thrift store, it's a Ross, it's a TJ Maxx, it's things of different places. So I try to come to my toolbox with, this is where you might be able to provide clothes, and the expectation of how to do that. But you do want to come into it with some sensitivity. You do want to, have that conversation with someone else in mind, and then be able to make sure they truly understand the expectation and why it's said that way. And then after that, I would definitely follow any type of kind of process that's in place with human resources as what to do if the person continues to violate that dress code.
Awesome. I learned early on from a mentor that said, the best communication is documentation, and it's easier to have harder conversations when things are documented, right? And so I didn't even think about the handbook, but that is a way for you to point to areas of non-compliance and, when you're out of compliance. So
yeah, because you got to facts instead of feelings, right? And that's our goal. Like, this has nothing to do with I feel about your outfit. I don't like your blazer. It has to do everything with the expectation that's written down. That's a fact. Yeah.
Right. All right. So in my research and preparing for this interview, I found 5 types of etiquettes.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to list them and I want to talk about them individually. So workplace, table manners and meal, which I feel like that's the one that most people think of. Professionalism, communication etiquette, and meeting etiquette. So let's talk workplace etiquette. What are your thoughts about that, or examples or anything there?
It is needed. And I wish in some environments that I started with, they went over that. Like, we want you to use emojis. I'm going to kind of slide into some of the communications, but some companies are very clear. When you send an email, is this just for information? Is this an action required? Put that in the subject line. And so a lot of times, if it is not given to you in the handbook or in new hire orientation, ask that in the interview. What is the workplace etiquette? Because you want to make sure you're a good fit for this company as well. And sometimes we get environments and we think, oh, they sound good, this fits me. And then you get in the workplace, the way they operate, and it doesn't work. They might be very big on birthday parties. They might be very big on employees coming and having to happy hour. And that may not be your style, so then you feel like I'm letting the environment down. I'm not showing up as a team player. And that's critically important. So and every workplace is different. They have the right to set the tone as they want to build their company and their environment. But definitely you want to make sure you ask. And if there's a reason, that there's sometimes around the holidays where there's some individuals who don't want to participate in holiday events, or they don't celebrate their birthday, feel free to share that. Feel free to say, maybe I'll donate, but I'm not interested in participating. You don't owe a full explanation, but you have the right to say, if it's not in the job requirement to do, and it's just their, workplace etiquette, you have the right to say, I'm choosing not to attend. I would address it professionally. I wouldn't look down upon the company because they do these things, but just let them know, I would like to be omitted regarding anything about the holidays. I had a teacher I worked with previously, and she lost her mother around the holidays. So it was a sensitive time for her. And she just shared, like, please don't include me. I just, it's tough for me. We understood. We were mindful for that. We loved on her separately during that time. But it was so helpful to know, not that she was required to tell us the why, so we really could be sensitive to, it is not just because she doesn't want to go to the holiday social. It's not that. It is because she has her own things to deal with. And so I think as supervisors, we do need to be mindful when we send these things out, these birthdays, sunshine committees, things that are happening. If our employees choose not to participate, it may have nothing to do with what we may think. It could be something beyond what we even know about. So we want to be sensitive to that as well.
Oh, so good. The company I work for now, it's in their handbook about emojis. I thought that was so crazy at first because I'm like, who puts that in their handbook? But oh my God, I had to refer back to it like, okay, dancing banana is in. People love it here.
Happy to use it. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that is super good. So the next one was table manners and meal etiquette. What tips can you give us when we are at company dinners? Company dinners are back. People are going to company dinners. So what is some etiquette tips you can give us?
And I just participated in a few company dinners not too long ago in March. And one, I would say as adults, a lot of company dinners, you are going to see where there is alcohol served, right? And they will invite you to drink. And this is everyone should do what works for them. But if you decide that you're going to drink alcohol, don't try anything new because the interviewer says, oh, this is a great drink, you'll love it. If you don't know how your body will respond to that substance, that alcohol, I would stay away from it. Sometimes it makes you sleepy, right? And you might want to be very alert. My personal choice is I choose to stay away from it in environments where I'm just getting to know the team because I want to be alert. I want to be alert. Not that, and I do drink socially, but I do in those settings, I want to be alert. I kind of just want to gauge my environment. And then as I get to know the team, I might join in a cocktail per se. But that's just typically for me. And especially after I've had a long day, I definitely, when it comes to ordering, I would order in a very modest fashion. I don't think it means you can't order an entree and you just have to get an appetizer and water, right? I think if this company has invited you, they pick the place. They are aware of the cost. They can afford it. However, I don't recommend ordering the most expensive item on the meal. Typically, you might come to a company dinner and they've already picked some shared appetizers. Feel free to partake. Feel free to go back and have seconds. That is definitely mindful. Before you have seconds, ensure everyone has been served. We do want to follow the other table manners about before we start eating, making sure that everyone has been served at the table before we partake. But feel free to definitely be yourself. Engage in conversation. It's easy to find yourself where you're just talking to the person directly. try to just kind of, move around the table, and not that we're engaging in conversation with someone across the table, but where you seem present, where you seem present. If you're not good with using your utensils, be mindful what you order. So me personally, I love ribs, right? Love ribs. You will never catch me ordering ribs in public. I just have not mastered, even as an etiquette coach, I have not mastered the best way to eat them in public. You won't catch me at a company dinner ordering anything with a bone. I just find it easier. I like boneless at that time. You won't catch me ordering much pasta because I can, even as an etiquette coach, I can be a messy eater. And so I'm always mindful about what can I maneuver where I can eat, I can cut properly, and I can show up as my best self, right? So and everyone is different. I've seen some people who can maneuver pasta well, and I'm impressed. I can't. So it's really, you have to be self-aware and say, like, how can I show up well? What should I order so I can be my best self, so I don't, I'm not have sauce everywhere. I'm not constantly having to wipe my mouth. I'm not going to sling sauce anywhere. You just really want to think about those things as you order. So I might keep it to a salad with a protein, or I'm going to go with some seafood that's easy for me to cut, and a vegetable, and maybe kind of a light carb, because then I get sleepy after I eat. So I don't want the droopy eyes, and I don't want to have to keep reshifting now because I'm so full, right? Because that feeling, and then they're going to probably want you to have dessert. They want to keep it going. So you want to be able to partake and enjoy. So I would just be mindful of what you order, and know your body. Know your body. Know your body. Know how your body responds to different alcohols, breads, foods, things of that nature. If you have an opportunity to go to, the restaurant, check out the menu before you go, so you have an idea of what you want to order. And then, I'm a big fan of, if you can't pronounce it, it's okay. Like, we're in this world where we feel like we have to say it right. It's okay to text to the server, I'm interested in this entree. Could you tell me how to pronounce it? I think it makes you look really intelligent in front of a employer, or if you're a candidate or at a company, to say, I don't have it all, but I want to learn. And
oh my God, such great tips. I'm interviewing you, so I cannot grab my notebook and write this down, but I have a major company dinner coming up, and I need all these tips. I'm the messiest eater. And I'm usually pretty good about table manners, but I have not thought about being intentional about what to order. Man, I definitely wouldn't order ribs, but I have been caught by getting some with the bone. Like, I really want to pick this bone up.
right. Mm-hmm.
That is so good. Okay, so the next one was professionalism, I believe. So what tips can you give us for like professional etiquette?
Again, it goes really hand in hand with that workplace of knowing, but when I think about professional etiquette, you want to think about, as a professional, how do you want to leave your mark, right? Mm-hmm. So there's some things I'm okay with people saying about me. She had high expectations. She was timely. But you have to think about those characteristics as a professional. You want to leave your mark in from place to place, and you want to show up and exhibit that no matter what. When conflict happened, she had some resolution. She was solutions oriented. So what are those tips that you want to show up as a professional? And I would maybe pick 2 or 3 and be consistent about that. Like, we can't get them. It's hard to be. We can't be everything. But who do you want to be when you leave an environment? What's important? And I think about, for myself, I want people to say I cared about them, like as an employee, but as a person, as a human being. Like, we have work to do, but you're a human. You have a family at home. So I want that's important to me, that I was kind. I wanted people to feel like I was solutions oriented. That I'm a team player. When you're a part of my team, I'm not a manager, but I'm a leader. I'm going to help you be your best self. But if they were like, no matter what, she's always going to start a meeting on time, and they were aggravated, I'm okay. Or, she never canceled the meeting. As long as the meetings were important and we were able to achieve something, I'm okay with that. So it's just kind of thinking about, like, how do you want to show up? What's important to you as a professional? Because we leave our mark everywhere we go. And the thing I've learned about a professional setting, you could be managing someone today and you apply for a job and now they're supervising you. Tables turn. The professional world is very small sometimes. So, and you don't know who knows you and who knows each other in your environment. So consider how you show up. Be mindful about having conversations about other coworkers and colleagues because we don't know the connection. People get jobs in multiple ways now, and we just don't know. We don't know. It happened to me this year. I was saying something, and an executive got on stage, and a director got on stage, and I was sitting next to my new coworker, and I complimented her, and she was like, "Oh, that's my cousin." And I thought to myself, I'm so glad I said something positive because I had no idea. I had been around them for weeks, but they didn't give up that they were family members. They were close. I never knew. So you just don't know.
You just don't know. I feel like social media makes the world even smaller. You don't know who is connected. Wow.
Yes, so true.
Yes. Okay. So next one is communications etiquette. We kind of touched on this. Do you have anything else to add to communications etiquette?
I would, I am a huge fan of Grammarly, right? So you have to be, again, this is self-aware. Know your style and how you communicate. Know if you often misspell words. Know if you sometimes use words in the wrong context. And so you can add Grammarly to your emails if you choose to get a paid subscription. If you have a job where you have to do a lot of writing, there are so many resources out there, and your company may pay for them, right? They might, so you never know. But I would use your resources, use spell check, take your time with that, because again, we have 7 seconds. We have 7 seconds, and you just want to be mindful of how you come across. Also, with communication, read it again multiple times. I'm a believer in if I have to have a hard conversation, I don't mind following up with an email, but I like to have that either verbally, either through Zoom or face to face, because tone can be taken out of context, we know. And so, again, like I said, the last environment, that's why they use emojis. Yeah. I said something, here's a smile, or it's a this is a laugh. I want you to know my intention. So one, understand the communications of the environment you work on, ask questions, make it work for you. And you got to figure out sometimes if there's a lot of back and forth with an email, and you got to know when to say, we need to stop and pick up the phone. There's a beautiful in that verbal, and I often say, hey, are you available to chat? I often call because I didn't want you to take what I was saying out of context. Right. No, let me just say it this way. And because a lot of times miscommunication, things happen because the communication was taken the wrong way and the intention was not there. But again, ask. So many times I wish I could go back and say, tell me about how we communicate in this environment so I can be successful. Like, help yourself be successful, because sometimes we're learning on the fly and we don't know. Like you said, I need to send a family weekend picture of what my family did. And when I don't send it, people are like, she's not a part of the team. Like, what did you do this weekend? We want to know. I was told at one job, when we walk in, you get right to the work. Like, we want you to check in on us. Ask about my son's soccer game. And I can be so driven and focused. It's like, and that's what helped me realize they're human beings. Did I check on their mom who's in the hospital? Or did I just get right to it? And so those things are helpful. And then ask for that feedback from people. Like, how do each person, if you lead a team, how do you like for me to communicate? Some people like text, some people like email, some people like those calls. So it's just knowing that and write it down so you can meet the needs of your team. If you have supervisors, write how they like to be communicated. And then if you're unsure about those hard emails, have someone reread it for you. Sit on it sometimes. Sit on it too. I'm a big fan of type it out, walk away.
Oh my gosh, these were even better than the other ones. So much, and especially it just so relates when you are, many people are adjusting, getting new jobs, and you're having to learn new cultures. So good. Love that. Meeting etiquette, last but not least, meeting etiquette. So let's talk in person and virtual. So any tips you can give on meeting etiquette?
Meeting etiquette is tough because so many environments are different, right? So sometimes the virtual environment I worked in, when we come to in-person meetings, they want us to put technology away. So I'm like, okay, now is not the time to be on your computer. They want you to be present, laptops closed, and use paper and pencil. And I didn't think that because we use technology so much every day. But when we're in person, they don't want us multitasking. They want us fully present and engaged. And so sometimes it's knowing that ahead of time because, I had someone had tell me, here's your tablet. That's all we provided that. That's what we want you to use. So really trying to find that out in advance is helpful because some of us, we have our own way that we take notes in meetings, whether it's electronically.
Right.
And so trying to adapt to something might be challenging. But knowing going into it can be helpful. Doing your best to be present, limiting distractions, letting your loved ones and your family know I am going to this in-person meeting so I can do this. If it's virtual, find you a space that works for your family. There's some times where we're active in a meeting, and there are often times where we are just participants in a meeting and we are on mute the whole time.
Right.
Knowing that and if you're at home, letting your family know. Whether you put a sign on the door, there's a symbol you use, it's a red paper, it's a hand you throw up like kids, whatever. I know a lot of people had to figure this out during the pandemic, but coming up with the system so your family can make sure that works for you. Another environment I was in for meeting etiquette, I didn't know it until I made a mistake, but you were supposed to log in 5 minutes prior to. You don't just log in when the meeting starts. The expectation is, what if your computer needs an update? And the expectation is you test your speaker and you make sure your video is right and you do all of this so you can set up to be successful. So it's asking these questions because sometimes they're not shared with you so you can show up and be your best self. And my best advice before any meeting is, before you log in, go to the mirror. Keep a mirror somewhere near you if you're virtual, so you can check yourself out before the world checks you out. If you're intending to show up like you want to. Sometimes we have time, sometimes we don't. I personally, for all virtual meetings, I have my settings set up where my camera is off and my mic is off. Everyone is different. I like to be in control of turning those on so I can make sure I don't have anything impeding my way.
Oh gosh, I'm telling you, from the signs to the hand to the letting the kids know, my kids are home today. So it's last day of school, and I'm like, I have an interview.
Yes.
But yeah, having a system in place, and I also think you keep saying, having to be assertive, not how to be aware and observant.
Yes.
Oftentimes, these companies have these cultures and things, but it's not listed anywhere. People don't know. It doesn't ever end up in a handbook. Just like cameras on, cameras off. Some people are in a virtual world where they can have cameras off. And the company that I work for, they are definitely a cameras on company. They never said it.
Yeah.
Definitely encouraged, right? And so sometimes, listen, I have a baseball hat next to my computer in case someone's to jump on a call. Baseball hat and a little lip gloss.
Yes, great tip. I believe in that. I do the same, and a blazer. I keep a blazer or a cardigan on the back, just in case you think, okay, I finished working out, I finished my walk, I don't think I have any meetings, and somebody needs you to pop in. What can I put over myself real quick? Yeah, that's great.
That's a good hack. I need to do.
I keep that I have in my closet, in my office closet, a few cardigans. I know they feel like she wears the same cardigans, right? But it's professional. I can get on camera and I feel ready if I need to. Yes, like you said, keeping whatever your thing might be, whether it's your glasses, whether you want a lip gloss or lipstick, earrings. Some people are really sticklers about earrings. Keep those there. So you can feel successful when you're ready. Yes.
Yes, I love that. I'm definitely going to get a cardigan or a blazer. there
Yeah.
are oftentimes I'm like, oh my God, I am not ready.
Mm-hmm.
Well, honestly, this has been so great. I mean, I hate that I couldn't even take some notes. I'm gonna have to rewatch it so I can take notes as well. This was so great. Thank you so much for spending time with us and giving us all these tips. Listen, sometimes it's going back to the basics and just reminding ourselves of these things because life has shifted and things have changed.
Yeah.
Can you please tell our subscribers how they can find you?
Absolutely. I am on both Facebook and Instagram as Polished Etiquette. So please go and follow the work we're doing there. We took some time off to kind of regroup during the pandemic and reshift, but we'll definitely have opportunities that will be posted soon. And I definitely, not only do I work with organizations, I do private events for families, for moms who are getting their children together who want to work as for prom or different things. So however I can meet the needs of any family, organization, or company, we are willing to do that at Polished Etiquette.
Awesome. And is there any last words you want to leave with us?
Etiquette is not always stuffy. It's just knowing how to be, right? And there's etiquette at every environment. So remember that. Etiquette at the football game, there's etiquette at five-star dining, etiquette at an interview, etiquette at the movies. It's just knowing how to be, right? We don't want to be in the movies and be loud. At the movies, you're supposed to be silent and watch the movie. So just keep in mind, etiquette has nothing to do with changing who you are. It's just helping you show up at your best self in any environment that you're presented to.
Ah, I love that so much. Thank you so much, Victoria. We really appreciate it. People, if you love this, liked it, any comments or things that you got from it, please down in the comments, let us know. Until next time, thank you again.
Thank you.